form that are included in the grades 4 to 6 English Language Arts and Literature curriculum. Specifically, you will find hybrid text mentioned in grade 5 and grade 6. A hybrid text is not only an engaging genre that integrates a narrative and informational text, but also a powerful tool to pique readers' attention and inspire the curiosity to learn. Here's a strategy that you can use to introduce your students to hybrid texts. Gather a selection of hybrid texts. You can find a list of these included in the resource card for hybrid texts by accessing it through arpdc.ab.ca. Invite your students to explore these sample texts in small groups. Ask them to think about what is it that they notice and what is it that they wonder about this form of writing. Give them sticky notes to help them label their observations about this type of text. Then as a class, you're going to bring together the observations that your students have compiled to build a list of characteristics of this type of text. You can think of them as attributes if you'd like. Then, to build on this knowledge or extend this knowledge, offer several more samples and ask your students if this new set of texts fits in the criteria that you've just built around a hybrid text. Is there anything new that they want to add or adapt to the list of characteristics that they've developed around hybrid texts? Ask your students to think about or reflect on why an author might choose this particular form or genre of writing. What are the advantages? What are their disadvantages, if there are any? You are going to rely on this list of attributes or the criteria to be considered a hybrid text as you move forward with working with these texts through a number of assignments. It is not required for you to write hybrid texts as written in the curriculum. However, we know that it is a helpful tool, a helpful learning space when we can show students a mentor text and then offer them an opportunity to then replicate or build their own sample of this kind of text. You'll notice in the curriculum that hybrid texts are mentioned in grade 5 and grade 6. If you're wanting to pursue written tasks related to hybrid texts, I would recommend having a conversation with other grade level teachers. So if you're in grade 6, you're going to talk to the grade 5 teachers. If you're in grade 5, you're going to talk to the grade 6 teachers, just to ensure that you're not duplicating assignments from one year to the next. So this sample might be best thought of for grade 5 as you're introducing the idea of hybrid texts to them. So once you've built the list of attributes or criteria for a hybrid text, you are going to provide your students a selection of nonfiction texts. And this is where you can connect your content to other subject areas. So maybe it's a certain topic that you're researching or looking at right now in science or social studies, and you might pull a couple of paragraphs from your textbook that you're using. You might pull an excerpt from a Wikipedia page. You might have a couple of paragraphs from a reference book. And then you're going to support your students in transforming or using that nonfiction text to build a hybrid text by adding an element of narrative or story or poetry directly connected to the nonfiction excerpt that you've given to them. So here you can see the actual curriculum related to the reading part or the text structure part. And what we're aiming here is for students to build an understanding that text genres and forms and structures supports the enjoyment and communication of ideas and information. So we're guiding our learners towards this notion that perhaps the author chose this structure because by pairing a nonfiction fact-based text with something more creative, they might be building a more inviting or an engaging space for the reader, or it also helps us understand how we can use facts in the world around us to inspire and see things creatively, such as through poetry. Again, you'll see here in the slides that we've linked this to some writing outcomes related to creating written text in a variety of form of structures for a variety of audience and purposes. And then, of course, you might want to extend it to incorporate graphics or other text features in relation to either the nonfiction or the creative piece, as you will see in some of the examples. Additionally, here we have this connected to the idea of creative thinking, because ultimately that thinking creatively is what helps us extend the nonfiction content into a more creative form. So you can use the Guide to Success that you will also see attached through the resource around hybrid texts to start unpack and think with your students about how you would build a quality hybrid text based on what we know. If you're targeting to include a specific element of figurative language or poetic structure that you're connecting to the curriculum, then of course you would add those elements to the Guide to Success so students are truly understanding what it is they need to include on their double page spread for the connection between the nonfiction content and whatever the creative piece is, the poem. Now, additionally, to make this a little bit more complex, and this is why might be where the grade 6 teachers take this work with hybrid texts, that you're not providing the nonfiction text as you were previously, but the students are building both the nonfiction portion of the hybrid text as well as the creative or the fiction portion of the text. So I suggest here using Ubiquitous as a mentor text. It's not required, but some kind of sample that they can come back to where students are looking to combine research on a topic of interest. Again, you can easily align this to social studies or science, and then they're going to use that knowledge that they've gained through their research to also inspire the creation of a poem. I personally love building classroom books. So for both of these examples, I would look to build out whatever the students create in some kind of a classroom book, whether it is digital or print in nature. So again, we see here that hybrid text is included as a form to be considered. And in grade 6, we're extending that understanding from grade 5 to see how genres, forms, and structures enhance and influence the enjoyment and communication of ideas and information. So in this case, you might be leaning more heavily into some of the artistic elements related to a hybrid text, as well as the written pieces of a hybrid text. Then I just quickly pulled in a couple of pieces related to the writing section of for this assignment. Again, you're not required to do writing of hybrid text, but I thought it was a really nice connection between reading a certain genre or form and then having students write that same genre or form. And then you're going to find here a series of hybrid text examples. This is meant for your reference only. It's really important that you allow the students to discover the characteristics of these kinds of texts, and it allows them to build their own understanding and then be able to use that understanding to then create something of their own. Each of the samples that are included in the slide deck includes a small card that lets you know what it is about this text that makes it a hybrid. As you go through the examples, you will notice that they are written at various reading levels. And I think it's important to note that this helps create inclusive learning spaces because there are hybrid texts here that could be written for a much younger audience or a lower or more basic reading level. And then there are others that include texts that would be for a more complex understanding of vocabulary and reading. So you will see naturally that you are drawn to some more than others, but there are a number of examples and structures that you could use that you likely already have in your school library to allow you to explore hybrid texts with your students. If you require any additional support related to hybrid texts, or you have questions about what this might look like in your classroom, please reach out to your local consortia office and we would be happy to help you.